And actually, as you know, this has been an item and a project that we've been working on, talking about, and thinking about, and reworking, and so on for a number of months now. Pursuant to your direction, I believe it was back in September, Council suggested a few items that they viewed as important for this project, and we took those items and ran with it, of course, pursuant to your guidance and direction, and went to work with Mr. Murtha and his team as it relates to right-sizing the design, if you will, to the extent that hopefully we could save some money on the project and still accomplish some of the major pillars of this project with a cost that would be at least more affordable, recognizing that the improvements that we would make would hopefully be improvements that would sustain the life of this building for the next number of decades and get more useful life out of this building without having to, of course, build another building or expand its current footprint. With that, we have some homework completed that we'd like to run by you, see what your thoughts are towards the work that's been done, and then ultimately, of course, we need to know if we have your blessing to proceed with regard to the homework that has been completed to this point. So with that, Mr. Mayor, if I may, turn some time over to Salima and Lyle and any others that we can provide you those insights.
Great. Salima.
Mayor, Council, so as the city manager mentioned, we do have Lyle Murtha here. He is the architect that has been designing Project Safe for us. Also, Alex Vita with City Engineering is here, and Matt Thomason with our Buildings and Structures division is also here. So we're all here to try to answer any questions that you might have regarding how the project has progressed. But ultimately, as Carter mentioned, we came back to you last September after, of course, the bids for the last design came in over $6 million, and said we think we need to go back to the drawing board, dramatically simplify the design in an effort to save some costs. And so a lot of the strategies that you all seem to support back then have been implemented in the new design, and Mr. Murtha has provided a cost estimate just under $4.5 million now to complete the project. You may remember back to the memo that I wrote back in September saying that we thought we would likely need $2 million in additional funding in order to move the project forward, and so we're right in that ballpark for sure. And so the major changes to the design from the one that you saw earlier this year that was rejected would include moving our IT division out of this building altogether. They would reside in the Casper Business Center with the PD and public safety staff and municipal court staff, and that freed up a significant amount of space in this building for us to fit the existing staff without having to build an addition onto the building. And so that was a primary strategy that was successful in reducing the cost because it eliminated a building addition that was quite costly. So in addition to that, we have definitely looked for opportunities to cut costs in some of the fixtures and the finishes that we're using throughout the facility. We have designed to where we still have single point of entry, which provides a lot of the security enhancements that we're looking for the building, but still gives access to the public, to the most public spaces, including a new meeting workspace for the city council that would be located actually across the hall from the council chambers, which is now our downstairs meeting room. So the current design renovates that space to create much more usable and public-friendly space for you to do your work sessions, but still allow single point of entry for the public to get into that space and council chambers without having to access the rest of the facility. So really that's probably the primary enhancement in this design. The restrooms will stay in the current location. They will just be renovated to be ADA compliant. And then meeting space office space throughout the building was really kind of limited as far as reconstruction, just to meet the needs of the current staff minus IT. So really those were the major renovations. The downstairs public-facing work groups, including the city clerk's office, our customer service group, and Liz's community development group, they will reside downstairs, and there are security enhancements to protect those really public-facing folks at the customer service counters and ensure their safety, which was, again, a primary objective of this project. So the base bid estimate that has been worked out by Mr. Murtha and his team, again, just under $4.5 million. We also asked him to include some alternate package options, the alternates being the exterior improvements. We do believe that we can create some security enhancements outside of this project to meet our primary objectives, but certainly an exterior package would give us a much nicer kind of plaza area for staff to, to take lunch breaks and different things, and be much more inviting for the public to come to the facility and just look nicer aesthetically, while providing some of the security enhancements that we were hoping for. And of course, with the restoration, we would then kind of highlight that art piece as part of the plaza package in the exterior. And then the other alternate is for finishes in the council chambers. So really that room is sort of standalone in terms of HVAC, in terms of lighting. It's really kind of separate from the other parts of the building. However, it does have asbestos, so if we replace the carpet, we would have to do some abatement that becomes kind of expensive. And so we separated that piece of the project out so we could analyze bids when they come in and determine at that time if we want to make those improvements. But really, it's new carpeting, it's new paint, and then some just minor improvements. We were given direction back in September to pursue some pre-purchasing options for our HVAC. You may remember the air handlers because of the long lead time. So we are still proceeding with that direction. However, we're trying to strategize and time that appropriately to where we have the pieces of equipment coming in corresponding with the contractor being on board for the full project, so that we can maximize the installation and coordination of that procurement. So the air handler for the council chambers is still included, but the installation would be part of an alternate bid package. So those are the major components. As far as funding, you may remember in your resolution for 1 cent 17, you did graciously award us about $5.4 million for facility improvements. Of course, City Hall needs were included in that package and all of the spreadsheets that we provided for you. And so in total, $998,950 of that $5.4 million was to be dedicated to City Hall. If we were to move forward with Project Safe, we would take care of the plumbing system, the electrical needs, the HVAC needs. So those items that were addressed in the facility condition assessment would be addressed in the project. And so it would be, in my opinion, an appropriate application of those funds, which leaves a deficit of about $966,000 that we are proposing we take from excess 1 cent $16 that have not been allocated to any projects yet.
Just to add to that very last point that Zulima made, Mr. Mayor, thank you. She mentioned 966 as kind of being the gap financing as it relates to this project potentially. I would also suggest Pete very, very recently found another pot of money through an energy efficiency grant that we are going to be awarded. Nice. And that'll bring another $120,000 to the table as it relates to reducing that gap financing that Zelina was talking about. And I would say consider that as a part of, the solution, not the complete solution, of course. But also the other thing council could consider, we do have some residual money in the capital fund, which is in our parlance Fund 150, that would also fund this balance if indeed 1 cent dollars were not to your liking to cover this. And so there's a couple options you could consider. Hopefully, the most that we would have to worry about is at 866 or 846 that would need to be found. We're really hoping that bids will be more favorable than that, but nonetheless, we're anticipating that that'll be the worst case scenario.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Carter and Zulima. For my own clarification, apologies if I wasn't paying close enough attention. That's just to cover the base bid, right? Not the alternates and additions?
Correct.
Okay, so anything beyond that, other pots of money,
Or we wouldn't do it.
Sure.
Right.
Okay. At what point do we intend on having the discussion about any alternates or additions? That'll be in the future, I take it?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, that would be when we get bids back and we're bringing to you a potential bid to award.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Do zoning out. So with all these numbers kind of being tossed out there, are we looking at 6.5 million still, or are we back down to the 4.5 million, but then doing all of the extra stuff?
Mayor, council member, so the construction of the primary portions, $4.5 million, just under $4.5 million. And then we have estimates for the exterior package, and you'll have to excuse me, I'm gonna have to defer to Lyle for those exact numbers because I don't have them in my memo. Under $500,000 for both. Lyle, is that correct? If memory serves me correctly, it was about $4.9 million with both of those included. And so we chose to do alternates for those because they are easily standalone projects that could be done at a later date or completed partially by city staff. So that's why we extracted those out. And so about $400,000 estimated in additional improvements should you do the whole package.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Carter, this is for you. I see direction is requested, so I guess I'd be more interested in where that money's coming from. Have you decided which pot, if you will, is better to pull from, whether it's 1 cent or the capital fund or?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Vice Mayor and Mr. Mayor. The majority of the dollars that we have talked about tonight have already been accrued and set aside and dog-eared for these purposes. The piece that we're talking about is at 846 for the base bid. I would propose that I would probably feel better just from a preference standpoint that we would use the excess capital project money that that I believe does not have 1 cent DNA in it to come up with that 846. And so that would probably be my recommendation if you were looking for one.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Amber.
And direction looking for tonight is, do we just want to send this to bid?
Right.
Okay, great. I mean, I think that the approach is great. It'll give us some options to consider once we send it out to bid, so I'm happy with the approach. So I'm comfortable approving it to move forward.
Other comments, questions? Yeah. Kyle? No, she was giving thumbs up.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I totally
Have to
agree.
hope that the bids come back
Yeah.
better than they did last time.
Go ahead.
I agree. I just wanted to point out, first, Casper City Hall was built 100 years ago for $76,000. So just an illustration to people about how times have changed. $76,000 for the whole kit and caboodle.
That's some good research. I wondered where that paneling came from.
I would like to see if we could transfer this to the new council meeting room. Is that a possibility?
Stains and all?
Think about it. Just ruminate on that, would you?
It has asbestos and they can't move it.
All right, is council okay with them to go to bid? Okay. Thanks, Zulima. Thanks, everyone. Yeah. All right, gender review. Kyle, I don't know what's.
I got it.
Sorry, I don't know why this is like, I am going straight to Kyle. Carter, do you have anything on agenda review? You need to go.
Why do you never see Lisa when you go straight
I
to Kyle?
don't
'Cause
know.
she's like right there.
I don't
I'm
know.
invisible.
No.
That's not true.
Sometimes that's good.
Mr. Mayor, I really don't have anything to entertain, other than to say, we do have the city attorney's contract in this agenda tonight, as you've probably already seen. And, beyond that, I would say nothing really to report.
Other than we mentioned earlier, you're gonna bring the ice rink stuff back in January,
Yes, sir.
so,
Correct.
and we have an executive session tonight.
Thanks, Carter, apologies if I missed this. Did we have in the memo or anywhere else a tentative start date for the new city attorney?
23rd.
Anything else?
23rd of December?
January, yes. Sorry, I should have made that clear.
So we'll have,
One day.
one of those in each month.
Oh, wow, we're jumping them right in like.
Eric wanted to give a little bit of time to, for the county. Obviously, it's switching from, it's quite a bit over there, so he wanted to give a little bit of time for them and for flexibility. So I said I didn't think the council would be too upset with that. So.
We have Jackie in the meantime, right?
Yep. Alrighty, that's it. We got about 10 minutes.
You wearing that tonight? Just in the meeting?
Sure.
I like it.
My beard in the car.
I like it.
Thanks, everybody.
Chief, I wonder,
Before we begin this evening, I'd like to remind everyone to go ahead and silence their cell phones, and that also all of our meetings are televised and can be viewed on cable channel 192. I now call the December 20, 2022 regular council meeting to order. All members are present. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the December 2022 bills and claims as audited by City Manager Napier.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Pollock, seconded by Vice Mayor Nell. Any abstentions? Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
All members voting aye, the motion passes.
Now is the time that we invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak with the council to come forward. As stated on the first page of the agenda, we do ask the following. Please state your name. Direct all questions and comments to the mayor and only the mayor. No personal attacks on staff or the council will be tolerated. Council will not respond to any personnel matters. Those will all be referred to the city manager. Questions posed by speakers may or may not be responded to by council. Presentations are limited to 5 minutes and the duplication of speakers are not allowed, and there will be no extensions for time. Please note that the public hearings and the ordinances have their own comment period, so please hold your comments until we reach those items. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Ross Schriftman. I feel compelled to speak in favor and praise of my fellow Wyomingites. Recently, there's been, of course, contention on one of the ordinances, and some of the comments indicated to me that we're a community with a whole bunch of hateful bigots. My experience here tells me the opposite. In January of 2021, I decided to leave Pennsylvania and come to Wyoming. When I told my family and friends, they were surprised, and then they all asked the same question. Why Wyoming? And I like singing. So my answer was pretty simple. First of all, less taxes. Secondly, lower living expenses. I just have myself and my Katrina rescue dog that my mother insisted that we take in. And more freedom and lower regulations. When I came here in June of last year, I was pleasantly surprised. I have great neighbors that really are caring and very helpful. I joined the synagogue, which is a small community, very close, very religious. We follow our practices. During this year, in the primary, I visited 1,800 homes. In the general election, I visited 2,300 homes, campaigning for various candidates. I found people mostly very kind and interested. Even those that were for other candidates were very, very nice about it. One thing that I found, which just blew me away, is a number of organizations and service organizations within our community. And just to take just another minute, I'm a joiner. In fact, if anybody wants to join my club, and some of you probably are in a lot of organizations, we're starting Joiners Anonymous. So hi, I'm Ross, I'm a joiner. There are 3 Rotary clubs that do fantastic work. And some of you are members of the same club that I am. Irish Clubhouse, to helping them, the mentally ill in our community and giving them a place to go and help them train. Make-A-Wish Foundation, Food Bank of Wyoming, Meals on Wheels, Senior Center, the True Care Women's Resource Center that helps pregnant women and girls with their pregnancy and helping them with their babies. Wyoming Rescue Mission, Project Kenny, service dogs for people with PTSD. The Jerry Behrens Foundation to provide funds for ill and injured law enforcement and military. Our Suicide and Crisis Line, Wyoming Dementia Care, Wreaths Across America, Chamber of Commerce, which does a wonderful job, and our wonderful medical professionals, law enforcement, and EMTs. And I pray that over the next couple days with the weather, that they're safe as they take care of us. So I just want to finish by saying that we should be grateful for what we have in this community, who we are, and what we do. And I wish all my Christian friends a very Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thanks, Ross, and happy Hanukkah.
Thank you, and thank you, Santa Claus.
Thanks, Ross. Any others who wish to speak? Hi, Tom.
Good evening. My name is Tom McCarthy. I'm the president and general manager of Town Square Media Casper, the parent company of K2 Radio, located at 150 Nichols Avenue downtown. My remarks this evening are regarding the comments made by Councilman Nell during the December 6th regular session. During that meeting, Mr. Nell referenced an article written, quote, a couple of years ago, and a reporter losing their job following the publication of that article. I believe Mr. Nell was referring to K2 radio reporter Tom Morton for two reasons. First, it was Tom who, on January 5th, 2021, first reported on Mr. Nell's multiple violations of protection orders and probation in Fremont County. Second, I've heard from multiple members of the community about Mr. Nell bragging to them about getting Mr. Morton fired from K2 Radio. As it happens, among those individuals was my own wife, who at the Mills Summerfest was told by Mr. Nell that he not only got Mr. Morton fired, but that he went above my head to do so. This was definitely news to me, as it is evidenced by the fact that Mr. Morton has not, in fact, ever been fired from K2 Radio, nor any other Town Square Media brand. Further, Mr. Nell referenced a retraction that was, quote, never really seen by anybody in his comments 2 weeks ago. I suspect the reason the retraction wasn't seen by anybody is that it was never published. Why was it never published? Because neither Mr. Nell nor his representatives were able to produce documentation refuting any of the details in the article. So, while I may not have any means to rebuke him for his lies he tells in private, when Mr. Nell chose to make those lies a matter of public record, I'm compelled to respond in the same manner and to set the record straight. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. McCarthy? Go ahead.
Just for the record, the retraction that I spoke of was on the front page of the Casper Star. They gave me the voice that you wouldn't. So that's the retraction I was talking about. They printed the truth in their paper. That article that Mr. Morton wrote wasn't the truth. It was mixed. It was twisted, if you will. So, for instance, just to be clear, since we're on the record, I never pled guilty to threatening to kill my ex-wife or anyone else. I pled guilty to making a phone call while there was a restraining order in place on both of us. But that phone call had nothing to do with that. That was an accusation that she let, which in divorces can be very contentious and not always truthful. So to come out with a headline saying new councilman threatened to kill his ex-wife was not only unfair, it was untrue. And that's what I've been fighting against since that article was written. Because once something hits the paper, people just believe it to be what it is. And my attorney did contact K2 Radio, and when we threatened lawsuit, we were assured that he would not be doing any more reporting on me or this council. And to this day, I've never seen an article from him, so I just assumed that to be true.
A 5-second Google search would show you that Tom reports every single day for K2 Radio. Also, I would encourage you to look up the definition of retraction, as it refers to an organization retracting something that they reported. So unless the reporter that you were referring to 2 weeks ago worked at the Star Tribune could not possibly have retracted anything. All of that being said, I'm not even speaking to the substance of the article, although your quote of the headline is completely false. I'm referring to the lies that you've told about Tom Morton being fired and nothing else.
Anybody else? Okay. Thanks, Tom.
Hi, I am Tom Morton. I'm a reporter for K2 Radio News, which is among the town square media stations at 150 Nichols Avenue. Tom sort of already stole my thunder on what Mr. Nell said 2 weeks ago, so I will jump over that, because I am the one who wrote the January 4th, 2021 article to which Mr. Nell has referred. But some background is in order. After the November 2020 general election, I began seeing comments on social media from newly elected Ward Council member Nell that were often rude, inappropriate, and unbecoming of an elected public servant. One day in mid-December, I was waiting at the window of the circuit court clerk's office for some documents. A computer terminal was nearby, so I plugged in Mr. Nell's name in the statewide database of circuit and district courts. I obviously didn't know what was going to show up. The docket in the Fremont County Courts database listed a charge of, quote, threatened to inflict death by phone calls or other electronic or written communications. I was, of course, astonished by this and other offenses, including violating protection orders. The Fremont County Court's docket sheet did not link to entire documents, so I went to Lander to conduct research. Meanwhile, I looked up Mr. Nell's name in the public federal court database called PACER and found that he had filed for Chapter 13 bankruptcy protection in September 2015, and in February 2017, the judge refused to discharge his stated debts because of what she called bad faith on his part. I interviewed Mr. Nell and his comments, plus the public records that are in the article K2 News published 2 years ago. Mr. Nell never contacted me about the article from the time of publication to my long planned for retirement date of Friday, April 30th, 2021, nor from then to last June when Town Square asked me to come back to work for them, nor has he contacted me since. Because there was no contact or a request for a correction on a story he called 100% completely false, there was no retraction as he put it. There was nothing to retract. In his comments to the council 2 weeks ago, Mr. Nell also mentioned that I lost my job for writing the article. People have told me he's brought this subject up in my alleged dismissal. I don't remember when I first heard about this, saying, and this may have been in the last few months, but I do remember thinking, wow, how did I miss that? It first sort of bemused me like a couple of decades ago when the first CEO of the Wyoming Business Council told people I was a defrocked priest. I'm not bemused anymore. This is not just about criminal incidents or a failed bankruptcy petition that happened 7 years ago, an article I wrote 2 years ago, Mr. Nell's performance on city council, or his failure to contact me if he believed there were problems with the 2021 article. I do not know why, and it does not matter why, Mr. Nell persists in telling people this inept fiction about the article and my supposed job loss with an easily disproven set of clumsy lies. This is about Mr. Nell's current impugning me, my coworkers, and Town Square Media. Town Square Media did not fire me. I'm still here. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Morton? Okay. Thanks, Tom. Any others who wish to speak? Good evening.
My name is Stacy Nell, formerly known as Stacy Casper, who was a divorce attorney here in Casper for over 20 years. Now, I have read the article. I've read but let me tell you one thing. Tom can say that he went up through PACER and he looked through the records. But I can tell you, as an attorney who has reviewed all of the records in Fremont County, who has read all of the transcripts from the trial that what he printed was not correct in any sense of the word. What he wrote was, frankly, for the most part, false. As Mr. Nell has said, he did make a phone call. He did not threaten to kill anybody. He did not say or plead guilty to that charge. So the information provided by Tom in the article is largely false. There is some truth in it. I'm not saying that it's a complete falsehood. There is some truth in it. But as an attorney who has done domestic law for over 20 years, I can tell you that the number of false accusations in circuit court to get a leg up in district court during a divorce action, they're common, very common. And so to hear my husband called a liar essentially here today, it is not fair. It's not fair at all. And I think the article written by Tom was not fair. And I do appreciate Town Square Media coming to his defense and saying that he was not fired. I don't know if he was fired or not. What I do know that what was printed was not correct. And so I would like this council to know that and the entire city of Casper to know that. Thank you.
Any questions? Thanks, Stacy. Any others who wish to speak to council?
Hello,
Good evening.
my name is Scott Konekamp. I'm not here to defend anybody. I'm not here to accuse anybody. I think that as a group, I think the most important thing is that you make your own decisions and you do your own research and don't rely on other people to make them for you. I have some experience as a private pilot, and one of the things that you do is do what is called a pre-flight check. And you're making sure it's the airworthiness of your aircraft before going up, okay? You don't rely on anybody else to do those pre-flight checks for you. You make sure that everything is done properly, step by step. And I would like to think of this, you guys, as the pilots of our plane, and to make sure that whatever decision you do make, and I'm not just talking about one thing, I'm talking about decisions you make in the future on every decision that you go forward with, is not just made by someone's hearsay, someone's opinion, or anything else. You make sure that you get as much empirical evidence as you can. And I encourage that. Make sound decisions, because we're your passengers. We don't have a choice. And the time to decide, hey, do we have enough fuel on board, is not when it's up in the air. You know, make sure everything that you could do before any decisions are made. And I just encourage that.
Any questions for Scott? Okay, thanks, Scott. Any others? Good evening.
Mayor and council people, Keith Goodenough, 333 South Saconee. And I came tonight to talk mostly about the process with your straw vote. And as it stands now, new people are elected first part of November. The straw vote is the end of November. I think it's safe to say that and for people who don't realize it, a straw vote is a non-binding vote. And it's done with the new council members because they are the ones who are going to serve with the mayor and the vice mayor. And so the official vote will be after the start of the year. A straw vote is a non-binding vote, but because the new people will be in on the official vote, they have to be included in a straw vote process. And I don't think it's realistic the way it's done now, because new people have virtually no knowledge about the personalities or who they're voting for and what the issues are. And so I just bring that up so that the public knows that that is the process and the way it's done. I will also point out that there have, in the fairly recent past, been a reversal of a straw vote. And that was done when I was, right after I left the council. I was on the council from 2006 to 2014. And right after I went off the council, there was a straw vote. That vote was changed after additional information came to pass. So I would just bring that up to point out that a straw vote is not a done deal. And I would encourage you to consider the possibilities of Bruce Nell becoming mayor. I think it's similar to when the council in 2011 hired John Patterson as city manager. And if you remember the Patterson years, there was a lot of turmoil. That was when Craig Hedquist was, a group attempted to oust Craig Hedquist off the council under dubious circumstances, was my opinion at the time. And the turmoil, there was constant turmoil for, I don't know, a couple of years. So I think it's important to keep in mind who's at the head of the ship. And so that's my point in coming to address you. I would also like to state that I have nothing personal against Councilman Nell. We don't know each other really. And any rumors you may have heard to the contrary are completely false. And I just don't like to see the council dynamics devolve into rumor mongering and misinformation and so on and so forth. It just makes the city look bad, I think. And as a final comment, I will say that I have no personal coordination with the previous K2 radio speakers.
Thanks, Keith. Any questions for Keith? No. Councilmember Gamroth.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Keith, for your comments this evening. You mentioned the fact that new council members get voted in November and they're included in the straw poll process, and that does not give them much opportunity to get to know the current council members and who might be the best mayor and vice mayor. So my question is, do you believe the new council members should not be included in the straw vote and the binding after the first of the year vote? Or I guess what was the reasoning behind that comment? Thank you.
Well, Mr. Mayor, no, I don't agree with that. What I would encourage is that the candidates for the council positions and the new people get together in a separate meeting and advertise it as grill the candidates for council leadership, research the people ahead of time, and then come to the meeting and let's have a conversation with a little bit more knowledge. And I realize that any new council person has the option of doing that on their own, but people being what they are, I think they're still so giddy from getting elected that they don't think to do those sorts of things. So that would be my comment, is there's a way to impart more information to the new voting members of the council rather than just leaving it up in the air. So that would be my point. Thank you.
Any other questions for Keith? No. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you, council.
Any others? Okay. I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of new restaurant liquor license number 50 for Antojitos Chihuas LLC located at 611 West Collins. Madam City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Mayor, I would offer exhibit number 1, correspondence from Fleur Tremel to J. Carter Napier dated December 6, 2022. Exhibit number 2, affidavit of publication as published in the Casper Star Tribune dated December 19, 2022. Exhibit number 3, affidavit of of website publication as published on the City of Casper website dated December 7, 2022, and Exhibit Number 4, liquor license application filed November 21, 2022.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
A brief one, Mr. Mayor. The application on behalf of the petitioner has been filed with respect to all of the current statutes and requirements therein.
Thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of a new restaurant liquor license number 50 to please approach the lectern. Those who wish to speak in favor. Okay, at this time, I ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to restaurant liquor license number 50 to please approach the lectern. There being no one to speak for or against new restaurant liquor license number 50, I now declare the public hearing closed. The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the issuance of new restaurant liquor license number 50 for Anjojitos Shiwas LLC, doing business for Anjojitos Shiwas located at 611 West Collins.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Sutherland, seconded by Councilmember Egebretson. Any discussion? Okay, any abstentions or nay votes? Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
Councilmember Pollock abstaining and all others voting aye, the motion passes.
Please read the ordinance on third reading by title only.
An ordinance approving a vacation replat, subdivision agreement, and zone change for the Pasadena addition.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve on third reading the ordinance just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Nell, seconded by Councilmember Egebretson. Council will now listen to public comment. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. Okay, any discussion? Amendments? Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
Councilmember McIntosh abstaining and all others voting aye, the motion passes.
Thank you. Council will now consider consent resolutions, so please read the consent resolutions by title only.
7A1, authorizing the mayor to sign the Casper Historic Preservation Commission annual report. 7A2, authorizing a contract for professional services with Equalized Production LLC for design and construction services for the Ford Wyoming Center Sound System Replacement Project. 7A3, authorizing a contract for professional services with DBC Irrigation Supply for professional services for the Irrigation System Improvements Project. 7A4, authorizing an agreement with 71 Construction Incorporated for the 2023 Cape Seal Project. 7A5, authorizing a procurement of goods agreement with Serpentix Conveyor Corporation for supplying conveyor components for use at the wastewater treatment plant. 7A6, authorizing a real estate purchase agreement with Knife River for the purchase of 47.94 acres of undeveloped land adjacent to the old landfill area south of Metro Road. 7A7, authorizing a lease agreement between the City of Casper and Mountain Sports. 7A8, authorizing an agreement with Crown Construction LLC for the North Platte River Pathway Replacement and Boat Ramp Installation Project. 7A9, authorizing amendment number 1 to the contract for professional services with Holland and Hart LLP for providing legal services. 7A10, employing Eric K. Nelson as Casper City Attorney and authorizing the execution of an employment agreement. 7A11, authorizing a contract between the City of Casper and TO Engineers Incorporated for the West Winds Road Extension and Land Use Study. And 7A12, authorizing a merchant agreement with Drive Payments LLC to set up the qualifying merchant account to transition the City of Casper utility account to a service fee model.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda items just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Egebretson, seconded by Councilmember McIntosh. Mr. City Manager, do you have any comments on any of the items? Thank you. Any abstentions or nay votes on any of the items? Please cast your vote.
Whoops, sorry.
Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, the motion passes.
Please read the consent minute action titles.
8A1, authorizing the reappointment of Greg B. Groves to a 3-year term as a Civil Service Commissioner effective January 1st, 2023. 8A2, authorizing a contract for professional services with Equalized Production LLC for design and construction services for the Ford Wyoming Center Sound System Replacement Project. 8A3, appointing Randall W. Hine and Tammy Chappelle, and reappointment of Carolyn Buff, Anthony Jacobson, Maureen M. Lee, and Paul Yurkowitz to the Casper Historic Preservation Commission. 8A4, appointing 1 new member to Casper's Council of People with Disabilities for a term of 3 years beginning December 20, 2022. 8A5, authorizing the purchase of 6 new portable vehicle equipment lifts for use by the Fleet Division of Support Services Department. 8A6, authorizing the purchase of 4 new mid-size police utility vehicles for use by the Casper Police Department. 8A7, authorizing the purchase of 12 new foam-filled loader tires for use by the Solid Waste Division of the Public Services Department. 8A8, rejecting all bids received for the Paradise Valley Pool Gutter Replacement Project, and approving the transfer of ownership interest for restaurant liquor license number 41, El Burro Loco LLC, doing business as El Burro Loco, located at 2333 East Yellowstone Highway.
Thank you. Chair to entertain a motion to approve the consent minute action agenda items just read. So moved. Moved by Councilmember Cathy, seconded by Councilmember Sutherland. Any abstentions or nay votes? Councilmember Pollock.
I'd like to abstain from item 8A9, please.
Yes, Councilmember Egebretson.
I actually was hoping I could ask the chief a question. Can I?
Carter, can we do that on consent, or is that?
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman, typically the Roberts rules would suggest that if indeed additional discussion were going to occur, it would be pursuant to a removal of an item from consent, the exercise of which we went through just a couple weeks ago. You remember that fondly, yes. I'm sure.
Yeah.
In the absence of that, I would say that that probably doesn't quite line up.
Any others? Okay. Please cast your vote.
Mayor,
Yes.
I just realized, I think I read the wrong title for one of these.
Oh, okay. Do you want to reread it? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're-
8A2, reappointing Ronald Schosch Jr. as the architect to the Old Yellowstone District Architectural Design Review Committee to a 1-year term expiring December 31st, 2023.
Thank you. So with that being reiterated, any abstentions or nay votes? Except for the one that we'll note for Councilmember Pollock. Okay, please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With Councilmember Pollock's abstention noted and all others voting aye, the motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, we ask council members to bring forward any relevant concerns or items of interest. We'll start with Councilmember Humphrey.
Nothing, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gamroth.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things. Attended the City of Casper employee Christmas party last week. Many of us were there and present, had a really good time. I'm thankful that the city does it for their employees. It's nice for us to have one opportunity at least a year to show our appreciation by, helping out, busting some tables, serving some food. So just had a really good time. Wanted to thank everyone that helped organize that and for the city staff that gave us that opportunity. I went with my family to David Street Station over the weekend, saw Santa Claus Saturday afternoon. There was a ton of people there, so thanks to David Street Station and all the other folks getting Santa out. One of our own council members makes many appearances this time of year, so thanks for everyone that helps make the magic happen. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Egebretson.
I also attended the employee breakfast. It's really early in the morning. Really, really early. And then contractor board meeting. Then also, there was just an idea that I had seen and thought that that would be something. So I thought that maybe it would be something that I could bring to you to talk to Andrew. There was a city in Ohio that had a contest for people to name the garbage trucks or snow plows. And I think that that would be a really good engagement for our citizens, and then, come up with some creative names and things like that. So I thought that that might be something fun we could do for the new year. And I just wish everybody a Merry Christmas and be safe out there with this cold weather.
Councilmember Pollock.
Thank you, Mayor. Attended the MPO meeting on last week, and a few updates to provide to you. We got a transit update. You all saw some of the sign that Liz brought into a work session not too long ago. Those are going up. They have, I think, one route fully completed and about, I don't know the exact number, but they're in the process of rolling those signs out. And they also have implemented a new dispatch software that is more responsive to real-time changes and has a live feed that goes to drivers, which sounds like it will smooth out a number of things on the transit side. So transit's moving along, got some improvements in the works that seem to be going well. There are a number of current projects that MPO is undertaking. We have a Western Gateway Corridor study that has gone through, has received some public comments, and they're through that phase of the project. And then the Casper Area Impact Fee Study, which is just starting. And there is an opportunity to hear more about that study on January 12th here at City Hall at 7 a.m. It's a coffee talk with the developers, so anybody who would like to learn more about that study that's about to get underway, that would be a good chance to do it. And then anything else to, nope, I think that's all I wanted to tell you about that meeting. And then I did just want to send my thanks to Kaneen and Michael for stepping in for the last several months. It has been a pleasure to work with both of you. So thank you so much for taking what I imagine was not the easiest term here. And then also thank you to Jai. It's been a real pleasure working with you for the last year and a half or so. I'm going to miss your thoughtful, solutions-oriented approach that you have brought to council over the last many months. So thank you for that, and I hope that we get to work together in some other capacity soon.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Yeah, attended the Old Yellowstone District meeting. It was the end of last month. We got to meet with Jeffrey Starr and see his plans for the Haul on Ash. It's going to be a great boon to our downtown area. He's going to be open additional hours in the evening, so maybe that'll create some more traffic downtown in the evening hours. It's going to be quite the place. So excited to see that. Remind everybody we're going to have some very cold weather coming the next couple of days, so please make sure you don't freeze your pipes and stay warm out there. I wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, and thank you everybody for the wonderful last 4 months I've had the opportunity to serve with all of you. It's been a wonderful experience, and hopefully I'll be back in a couple of years.
Councilmember Sutherland.
Thank you. A few things from me. We had our water board meeting today. There's nothing crazy to report there. I think the one thing is just that we continue to see that the decision to change where our investments are located is just really yielding quite high interest, and that's really good for the board, and we're seeing similar things for the city there. So really astronomical increases there. From last year was like $775, and so far this year we're in the $59,000 territory. So that was a great decision on behalf of our, or a great recommendation, I should say, on behalf of our finance department. So maybe Steve will follow up if I missed anything else to report from that meeting. Not sure if you heard it's going to be cold, so stay warm. I also just wanted to thank all the applicants who stepped up for our city attorney position. I just want to welcome Eric. I think he's going to be great for the city, so I'm excited to see that there. And then lastly, I didn't get a chance to be at the breakfast last week. I was out of town, but just in general, I want to thank my colleagues here on the council and city staff and everyone. This has been a tremendous honor and opportunity for me to sit here and learn from and work with everybody here. And if anything, I've just gained profound respect for everybody who works in our city and brings us forward and makes hard decisions. And I just have tremendous respect for all of you as well as colleagues and leaders in our community. So I hope to continue to learn from all of you, and I also hope to see you around and keep working together in whatever way I can. So thanks, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and stay safe.
Councilmember Kathy.
To follow along with the Water Board meeting, the big thank you goes out to Jill Johnson, our Finance Director. She is the one that brought the proposal to City Council and to the Water Board to switch our investments. So we definitely appreciate that, and we are doing much better on generating income without having to tax the public or raise rates on our utilities due to that. So thank you and kudos to you. And it was wonderful at the city breakfast to really be able to visit with the employees, find out what they actually do. A lot of things that go on out there that we don't realize what actually happens, and some of the little intricacies that everybody in this community takes for granted. So again, it was a wonderful get-together for the breakfast, and thank you and a Merry Christmas to all of the city employees. The chamber is still in need of a new CEO, so if you know of any good Chamber of Commerce CEOs, pass it on to them to come and apply for the position. The other thing is we approved tonight to spend money on a West Winds Road study. That is part of the MPO, and that is not necessarily a Casper generated, but an MPO generated project, and we are the administrators of that. So I want the people to know as well that what's Casper doing looking at West Winds Road? That's because of the MPO and the way that organization is set up. And a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to my colleagues on council, and you will all be missed. It's been a pleasure with Michael and Kaneen and Jai that it's been wonderful and great working with you all. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Concerning the Joint Powers Water Board, just to give you an example of what they keep praising Jill, I'd like to give you an example of what she did. 2 months ago, we got a report. Our normal interest earned on our accounts is about $600. And after she switched us over, that jumped all the way to $25,000. So if that doesn't give you an idea of the expanse and the ability that she brought to our Joint Powers Water Board, I mean, it's just been wonderful. And she's doing the same thing for the city, I understand. So Jill, thank you. You weren't here last time we got to thank you, but it's wonderful things you're doing. So we appreciate you. I need to make sure if you have any specific council assignments that I get those over this holiday so that I can get them sewed up. I'm almost done. Chief Black, I met with him and I sent an email, but I've come to find out that in order to not have a quorum, I can't send emails to all of you like that. So I want you to know that we met over the ambulance service that Banner is proposing being our main ambulance provider for the city. There's some contracts going back and forth right now, and there have been some question raised as far as making sure their rates stay where they're at when they have a monopoly like that. But if you have questions, please get with Chief Black or City Manager Napier, and let's get those hashed out because it'll be coming before us here pretty quick. Also, lastly, prayers for Buck King. He is the chairman of our Joint Powers Water Board. He's going through a 5-way bypass. He will be gone for, I think, 4 or 5 months. Buck is also the mayor of Edgerton? Right. And so I'm sure he wouldn't mind any prayers you could send his way. And I am also going to thank you, Michael. I had a great time at your house Saturday night, and it was great meeting your wife. But you and Kaneen and Jai, what you brought to the council was immeasurable. This has been just a great council to work with, and thank you guys for all that you did. And everyone else, please have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we'll see you in January.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I feel terrible that I didn't realize this was y'all's last meeting. A third of our council is going to be turning over, so I don't have much more to say that hasn't been said. Everyone else already said it, but I do really appreciate Keneen and Michael, both you stepping in for such a short term to help us get through the season. I really, really appreciate it. Jai, it's been an absolute pleasure to serve with you. Like Council Member Pollack said, I hope to continue that in some other capacity, maybe the same capacity in the future, who knows? But it's been a pleasure, so thank you, all three of you. I'm looking forward to working with the new members, but really, really enjoyed my time on council with you three. Thank you.
Just a couple things. I was not able to make it to the employee breakfast. I was at the mayor commissioner meeting, a riveting meeting held at 7 a.m. for all the governmental heads, and but I heard it was a great breakfast and it was wonderful. So thank you to the council members that were able to attend and represent us. I appreciate that. I too wanted just to take a minute and also thank all the candidates as well that applied for the city attorney position. And I want to welcome Eric to the city attorney's office, and he will be a great asset to the to our city, very much so. So great deal of respect for Eric. So welcome him to do that. Also to Keneen. Keneen and I served a couple times, a couple years together. So appreciate you coming back here and doing that as well. And to Jai and Michael, and appreciate you guys for your service and being able to be here. Appreciate everything. We're going to miss you quite a bit. So, the next meeting of the City Council will be a regular council meeting to be held at 6 p.m. Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023, in the council chambers, and a work session to be held at 4:30 p.m. Tuesday, January 10th, 2023, in the council meeting room. A notice of an executive session to take place at this date and during this meeting was given. We have matters to discuss regarding personnel. Yep, just making sure that the other part is not, right? Right. Correct, okay. Therefore, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn into an executive session, and at the conclusion of that executive session to reconvene this regular meeting solely for purposes of adjournment of this regular meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Pollack, seconded by Councilmember Sutherland. There being a majority of members present and a motion to adjourn into an executive session having been moved and seconded, and that motion requiring a 2/3 majority of the council present, please cast your vote.
I just wanted to stay.
I did, sorry.
Please record the vote.
All members voting aye, the motion passes.
A greater than 2/3 majority of the council present voted in favor of the motion, and we are hereby adjourned into an executive session. Thank you. Be safe, everyone. Happy holidays.